In the ancient highlands of western Mexico, an empire rose that defied the odds. A realm of strength and strategy carved into the mountains. This was the Tarascan Empire, a civilization that held its ground against one of the fiercest military powers of the age, the Aztecs. While countless societies across Mesoamerica bowed to Aztec dominance, the Tarascans remained unbroken. Their secret? A formidable blend of geography, ingenuity, and a mastery of metal that few could match. Here, in the fortified capital of Tzintzuntzan, a city perched among the peaks and guarded by the winding Lerma River, the Tarascans wove the land itself into their defenses. Their warriors wore copper and bronze, a shining armor that reflected not only the sunlight but a fierce resilience. In their hands, this metal became a weapon, a shield, and a symbol of cultural pride. Unlike any other Mesoamerican civilization, the Tarascans wielded metal against obsidian, turning their mastery of metallurgy into a weapon as powerful as any spear or bow. But how did they do it? How did a people surrounded by enemies build such an enduring legacy of strength? This is the story of how the Tarascans transformed mountains, rivers, and metal into defenses that even the mighty Aztecs could not penetrate. It's a journey into the heart of a people who valued resilience over surrender, crafting a legacy that resonates across centuries. Today, we uncover the secrets of their strength, their culture, and their unyielding spirit. In a world where warriors wielded weapons of brittle obsidian, the Tarascans dared to forge an empire from metal. Copper and bronze flowed through their hands like rivers, transformed by skill and fire into armor and weapons that defied the enemy's strike. For the Tarascans, metallurgy was more than a craft. It was a statement of identity, a testament to resilience and pride. Imagine the glint of copper shields, polished to brilliance, deflecting the Aztecs' fearsome obsidian blades. The Tarascan armor was no ordinary defense. It was a carefully crafted advantage. Against the fragile, razor-sharp edges of obsidian, the durability of copper and bronze was revolutionary. The Aztecs' weapons struck hard but shattered against the unyielding metal, and in this clash, the Tarascans gained a psychological edge. Their armor wasn't just a barrier, it was a symbol, a message to their enemies that the Tarascans would not break. And this mastery of metal extended beyond the battlefield. From their skilled hands came bronze artifacts, ceremonial tools, and adornments that journeyed along the trade networks of Mesoamerica, spreading the Tarascan influence far and wide. Every piece of metalwork carried with it the legacy of their culture, a legacy forged not only for survival but for prosperity. In markets and gatherings across Mesoamerica, Tarascan metal goods shone as markers of their enduring resilience and their command of resources. To this day, remnants of Tarascan craftsmanship endure as silent witnesses to a culture that valued resilience as much as artistry. These artifacts, preserved and protected, tell the story of an empire that held its ground and wielded the earth's elements to build something greater, a legacy that metal, mountains, and culture combined to protect. High in the rugged heartlands of western Mexico, the city of Tzintzuntzan stood like a sentinel among the peaks. This was no ordinary city. Tzintzuntzan was a fortress, a refuge, and a testament to the Tarascan Empire's genius in blending nature and defense. Here, among mountains that towered like stone guardians and rivers that flowed like silent protectors, the Tarascans crafted a home that was as resilient as the people who lived there. These defensive mountain strongholds weren't just geographical features, they were the backbone of the Tarascan defense strategy. With mountains forming natural walls and the Lerma River creating a near-impenetrable barrier, Tzintzuntzan became a fortress built into the land itself. Every valley became a corridor of control, every hill a vantage point. From the high ground, the Tarascan warriors could see enemies approach long before they reached the gates. And for the Aztecs, who thrived on overwhelming power and rapid advances, these natural defenses presented a challenge they could not easily overcome. The mountains became a maze, the river an obstacle, and the Tarascans turned these barriers into allies. It was as if the earth itself had sided with the Tarascan Empire, becoming an extension of their culture and strategy. a durability factor that gave them a near-invincible stance against their ancient rivals. But these fortifications weren't only physical, they were psychological as well. The site of Tzintzuntzan, perched defiantly in the highlands, was a message to any would-be invader. This was a city that would not fall. And indeed, while the Aztecs conquered vast regions around them, Tzintzuntzan remained untouched. In these stone walls and riverside defenses, the Tarascans made a statement as unbreakable as the metal they wore into battle. Here stood a people whose resilience was as much a part of the landscape as the mountains themselves. When the drums of war beat across the Tarascan Empire, their warriors rose, not with brute force alone, but with calculated precision and agility. The Tarascans were masters of adaptation, a resilient warrior culture that met each challenge with strategy as sharp as any blade. They knew that power was more than numbers, it was control, it was discipline, and it was preparation. In their hands, the Tlahuitoli bow became a deadly instrument, its arrows soaring high, finding targets with chilling accuracy. And then there was the Tepoztopili spear, a weapon of reach and power, perfect for holding ground against the Aztec elite. These were more than tools. They were a reminder of the Tarascan approach to warfare, where each weapon was chosen, each strike calculated, each defense fortified with a psychological edge that rivaled the Aztecs' fierce warrior presence. But it wasn't only their weapons that made them formidable. The Tarascans were adept in battlefield agility and rapid deployment of warriors, creating a force that could adapt in moments, shifting and regrouping like the currents of a river. The Aztecs prided themselves on their relentless offense, but the Tarascans met them with resilience, with movement, with strategy that turned every conflict into a lesson in endurance. This wasn't chance or circumstance, it was strategic equipment perfectly matched to their needs. In every skirmish, the Tarascans demonstrated that their strength lay not only in the physical, but in the mental. They saw the battlefield as a canvas, each tactic a brushstroke, each defense a line drawn firmly in the sand. Against the offensive strength of Aztecs, they stood not only as warriors, but as symbols of calculated strength, embodying the very essence of a people who refused to yield. For the Tarascans, power didn't lie solely in strength of arms, it lay in the strength of alliances, in the wisdom to forge ties that could extend their influence without drawing a blade. This was an empire that understood the art of diplomacy, the subtle power of diplomatic networks that linked them to neighboring tribes and distant territories alike. Where others might conquer, the Tarascans chose to connect, to build a legacy through diplomatic surrender and alliances, expanding their reach and fortifying their resilience. Through these networks, they became more than warriors. They became empire builders, weaving a web of alliances that allowed them to trade and thrive. Their trade networks stretched across Mesoamerica, carrying copper and bronze artifacts, tools, and ceremonial treasures that spread the influence of their culture and craftsmanship. These weren't just items of trade. They were symbols of a cultural resilience that defined the Tarascan people. The copper, shaped by skilled hands, was more than metal. It was the Tarascan identity, preserved and shared across regions. Every piece of metal that moved along their resource networks was a testament to cultural pride, maintained and honoring forgotten legacy. These artifacts spoke of a people who took pride in their resilient cultural spirit, who saw metal not just as a means of defense, but as a way to express their story. From ceremonial artifacts to trade goods, the Tarascans left their mark in every corner of the region, a cultural metal impact that echoed far beyond the mountains of Tzintzuntzan. Even today, the echoes of that cultural identity restored can be seen in the descendants of the Tarascan people, the spirit of resilience, the pride in heritage, the artistry of metalwork. All of these continue to honor the legacy of a culture that understood the power of both connection and defense. In every artifact that has survived, in every alliance that was forged, the Tarascans proved that sometimes the strongest legacy isn't built on conquest, but on connection. The Tarascan Empire was a tale of resilience, but even the strongest stories face an ending. In time, the shadow of foreign domination crept over their lands as the Spanish conquerors cast their gaze toward Tzintzuntzan. But the Tarascans would not surrender easily. Led by their final ruler, Tangakxuan II, they attempted a final act of diplomacy, a final peace attempt to preserve their people and their culture. Yet history can be merciless, and Tangakxuan's offer of peace was met with betrayal. In a final, tragic turn, Tangakxuan II was captured and executed, and with him, the sovereignty of the Tarascan Empire came to an end. It was a lasting cultural erasure, a dark chapter in the Tarascan story, but not the end of their spirit. For even in defeat, they left behind a legacy honored by their descendants. The echoes of their resilient cultural legacy continue to ring through the ages. Their unmatched craftsmanship in metalwork, their cultural pride, and their mastery in turning metal into symbols of identity have endured. The Tarascans may have lost their independence, but they never lost their identity. Even as foreign forces sought to reshape their world, the essence of the Tarascan Empire survived, a legacy of artistry, resilience, and pride. Today, the descendants of the Tarascans, known as the Purapisha, carry on the spirit of their ancestors, honoring the resilient cultural spirit that refuses to be forgotten. In every festival, in every piece of art, in every memory passed down, the Tarascan legacy lives on. They are a reminder that true power does not lie in conquest, but in resilience. That the strongest legacies are not those carved in stone, but those carried in the hearts and hands of those who remember. The story of the Tarascan Empire is more than a tale of war and peace. It is a tribute to the power of resilience. Here was an empire that defied the mightiest forces of Mesoamerica, that turned metal into a tool of strength, and that forged a legacy built not on domination, but on determination. The Tarascans transformed their landscape, their culture, and their craft into a story that would not fade. Their mastery of metallurgy and warfare gave them a strength that few could rival. But their true legacy lies in their spirit, a resilience in cultural heritage that echoes through history. Today, we remember the Tarascan Empire not just as a civilization, but as a symbol of courage, a reminder of what it means to hold fast to one's identity, and to defend not just land, but culture and pride. As we close this chapter on the Tarascans, let us honor their memory. Let us carry forward their story, and let us be inspired by their example. For they showed us that resilience is the truest form of power, and that a legacy built on pride and strength will endure no matter the odds.